Shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles, and there was a great millstone. Salutations to the brothers, to the four corners of the earth, pushing this word and truth and sincerity. Okay. And I got this, article from RT News, and it's speaking on how the U.S. and the allies use sanctions to downgrade Iran's power in region. Okay. Them two allies, all right, or Saudi Arabia and Israel. Okay, the Israelis, the fake Jews that's in the land of Israel today. Now, ultimately, what they're trying to do is they're putting sanctions on Iran because they're trying to stop Iran from doing intercontinental ballistic missile tests. Okay, they don't like how Iran is basically building up in power. Okay, so basically they're trying to keep their foot on their neck, so to speak. Okay. Now, actually, I want to read a little bit from the article. It says the U.S. keeps imposing sanctions on Iran because its allies, such as Saudi Arabia and Israel, want to put pressure on Tehran to prevent it from expanding its power in the region, says Kaveh Al-Fasabi, a former advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiation team. You see, so they don't want Iran to basically have more power over the nations that they're close to and nearby. Okay, but the thing is, you're not going to be able to stop these smaller countries that you were able to bully, decades ago, and different things like that, because now all these countries have what? They all have nuclear power as well. So you're not able to just bully and invade these smaller countries. Okay, that's why the scripture says, let the weak say I'm strong. So before you was able to just, command these countries to follow certain actions or the orders that you gave them, but now, they're able to rebel against you, because they figure if you shoot a nuke, I'll shoot a nuke. Okay, you got missiles, I got missiles. So what you want to do? And this is how these other nations and all these smaller countries are starting to present themselves. They're starting to stand up for themselves now. Okay, now let's get a scripture real quick, okay, to back up my statement. Because once you get a arsenal to protect yourself, now you can start to stand up against the bully. That's just like, if you was a frail, skinny kid going to school and a bully was beating up on you and bullying you through the school year. You might take off that summer and you might go train. Okay, you might go boxing or martial arts or whatever you get into, but you figure out how you can protect yourself against that bully. So then when you come back the next school year, what happens? The bully thinks he's gonna come that year and think he has the edge on you, and you might do a martial law move and kick him right in the neck, knock his ass right out, and then you show forth what your strength and your power to everybody that's around watching you get bully. Now nobody doesn't want to mess with you because now you're not easily to be targeted, so to speak. All right, so let's go to Joel. That's just a light example. Let's get on Joel 2 and 3 and 10. Okay. And it reads, I'll start at verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, and let all the men of war draw near, and let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. That's right. All these other nations, they put most of the money into what? The military. Okay. They're no longer putting all their money into all these different farming instruments and things like that. Okay. They put their money into their military to what? To protect themselves. Okay, and this is what you see going on all throughout the world right now. All the different nations, basically, they're preparing themselves for war. You know, for upcoming war that they know that's going to take place. You know, so that's why you see anti-air defense systems set up in all these different areas and countries, and all you hear about all these different things that's going on, like in the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans and thing like that. You have a lot of aggression coming from these other nations, which are ultimately coming against America. You know, rebelling and coming against America. You know. So it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say I am strong. Right, and Iran is one of them examples. Okay, they're one of them weak nations once before, but now they are strong because what? Now they got nuclear capability. Okay, now they can no longer just be picked on. All right, and them are one of them nations. Not to mention some of Iran's allies that they have backing them up as well. Okay. Just want to go back to the article. You see, and this is what you see taking place. So now you can just no longer sanction them and say, well, you know, or give that order out. Well, you need to stop shooting testing these missiles. Pretty much, other nations is telling you, fuck off, America. Okay, just like what Kim Jong-un. Okay, North Korea. Decades ago, he wouldn't have been rebelling against the orders and the sanctions of America. Now what? We're coming in these times as all these different nations are rebelling against America and telling them like, well, look, if you want to go to war, we can go to war. And as you can see, the U.S. is not just bombing and invading these countries like they did before. Okay, they may talk their game and say, well, if you do this particular matter two more times, then there's going to be problems and things like that. Well, Kim Jong-un, you know, the president of North Korea, he's continuously doing things and telling America, make your move, because we are ready for war. You know. So let's go back into this article. So the U.S. envoy to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, said the U.S. is not beyond abandoning the Iran nuclear deal. Tehran cannot be allowed to use the nuclear deal to hold the world hostage, she said in a statement on Tuesday, adding the new U.S. sanctions were not related to the Iran nuclear deal. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has said that if the U.S. imposes more sanctions on Tehran, Iran will certainly return in a short time, not a week or a month, but within hours, to conditions more advanced than before the start of negotiations. Meanwhile, the UN insists the international community must do everything in its power to ensure the agreement holds. According to Kaveh Afrasiabi, it wouldn't be wise for Washington to give up the nuclear deal at this point. It is in the U.S. interest to make sure Iran does not retract itself to industrial-scale nuclear activities, which was a major concern for the U.S. and the other Western nations, he said. Iran, as you know, is able to produce 20% enriched uranium and has capability to do even more than that. So it is up to Washington basically to avoid such unnecessary escalations, he told RT. There are several reasons to explain why Washington keeps introducing new sanctions against Iran despite acknowledging Tehran's compliance with the nuclear deal, says Afrasiabi. One of them is the U.S. allies in the region, particularly Israel and Saudi Arabia, want to pressure Iran and to prevent it from setting its power in the region, he explained. And that's the point, okay? That's the point right there, because Saudi Arabia and Israel, they don't want Iran to come and fall into that power, okay? But guess what? You're not going to be able to stop these different countries of what's about to take place. And if you know anything about what's really taking place and what's going on, you know that Iran's main ally is who? Russia. Okay, Russia is backing up Iran. All right. I want to pull out this other article from RT that came out this week. You know, it's from Fort Russ. Another one was Russia Today. This one is showing you how Russia's backing up Iran. This says Israeli television, right? Israeli television has reported that in the northwest of Syria, Iranians are building a plant to produce short-range ballistic missiles. Satellite photos were shown to confirm this information. According to the source, the plant is being built in the seaside town of Baniyas, a few dozen kilometers north of the port of Tartus, where the Russian naval base is located, and slightly south of the Khmeimim Air Base, where Russian military aircraft are deployed to ensure the safety, which air defense systems are deployed S-300 and S-400. Thus, the plant under construction is potentially protected from Israeli airstrikes by Russian air defense means, right? So, Iran is having a base built in Syria, but it's also backed up by who? Russia. So, meaning the Israelis, you know, in Saudi Arabia just can't hit this base with airstrikes, okay? Because if you're doing that move, then that will be an act of war, okay? And then you would invoke Russia in the matters, because Russia has what? They have some of they have some of the bases out there, and they got their air defense systems. So ultimately, you just won't be bombing the Iranians, okay, and the people of Syria, but also you'll be bombing Russia as well, okay? And that's a major act of war if you were to do that. Okay. So the conclusion that it is the construction of a missile plant is based on an expert assessment of images from Syria and Iran. According to them, a plant is being built for the production of the Fateh 110 rockets, the range which is about 300 kilometers. Obviously, these missiles can be designed for both the army of Bashar Assad and the allies in Syria. Okay, and it shows you a little map, okay, where it's located. All right. So pretty much the point of that is, you know, as you can see, is Russia is backing up Iran, and this is prophecy, folks. Okay, this is Ezekiel the 38th chapter. All right, Ezekiel 38. We'll start at verse 1. It says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Okay, right. So the land of Gog is where? You know, that's modern day Russia. Okay, that's where the land of Gog is. All right. And also, you have what? You have the land of Magog, which is what the ancient land of the Scythians. But what that land is now called Central Asia, okay, which includes parts or all of Afghanistan. You see? Then you got Meshech, okay. Meshech is located where? In modern day Turkey. So is Tubal, okay. And what you have now is a lot of these countries that were allies, you know, to America, you know, they're starting to turn against them. You know, that's why you hear different things about Germany, you know, starting to get frustrated with America. You know, Turkey starting to get frustrated with America. Ultimately, all these nations are, you know, getting frustrated and, you know, becoming against America. You know, and the only reason why these nations are with America now is it was out of fear. Okay, and now that these nations are got their military power up, you know, they're starting to turn from the ways of U.S. Okay, because the only reason why they were with them because they was getting ruled over, and America had that power over them. Okay, but as today, America is losing that power. And these nations can see it. Okay, as the tension rises up for ultimately World War III. Okay, verse 4 says, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thy army horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." Right. So Russia is Most High is turning back Russia in that Cold War like spirit. Okay, Russia, aka the Big Bear. You know, so he's turning Russia back into that spirit. You know, and that's why you see the things that's taking place as you see now. Okay. What? "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, and bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords." Right? You know. Yep. So Russia's right there is preparing for war. Okay, preparing for, you know, their armies is ready. You know, that's why they got you know, their air defense systems all on close to borders, next to America's allies. You know, which is some of these other nations. You know, they got Russia got all their you know, their military jets and what is they called, naval ships out in the middle of the oceans and spread it out through different places. You know, basically they're all ready. Okay, they're ready for something to pop off. You know. Verse 5, here go the point. It says, "Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with the shield and the helmet." So it's telling you what nations that's going to be on the side with Russia. Okay, now if you know anything about Persia, modern day Persia is where? Iran. Okay. Now didn't you see in this article that what? Russia is backing up Iran. Okay. While Iran is building a missile plant in Syria, who they protected by? The Russian air defense. And like I said before, if the U.S. or its allies decide to send nukes at that military base, that is an act of war, and that will be an all-out war. Okay. It says Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with the shield and the helmet. So that means they'll all be all together. And if you know Ethiopia, where is Ethiopia at? Okay, which also is known as Kush. You know, but it's called what? It's the modern day what? Area of what? Sudan. Okay, North Sudan, and parts of what? The South Sudan. Okay. You know, then you got places like what? Somalia, Kenya. You know, East Africa, roundabout in them remote areas. Then you got Libya. Okay, where's modern day Libya? You got Egypt, right? You got parts of Egypt, you know, by the West Nile, and you know a little bit of parts of North Africa. So that's the places that's gonna rock with Russia. Okay, and then you got Gomar and all his bands, the house of Tagamar of the North Quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Now who is Gomar? Gomer's modern day Turkey. Okay, and Tagamar is located within Turkey. You know, so basically letting you know that Turkey is going to end up being with Russia. Okay, Turkey is going to end up being with Russia. This is why this is all prophecy. You know, that's why it says Gomar and all his bands in the house of Tagamar of the North Quarters and all his bands and many people with thee. With who? Who is going to be with? Gog is going to be with Gog, which is Russia. That's who it's going to be with. You know? I mean, they're going to be what? All joined together. You know, so, you know, right now, Turkey's a part of NATO. Okay? But like the scripture says through prophecy, all these different nations that was confederate with the U.S., they're all going to turn against them. Okay, this is biblical prophecy. That's why it says, all thee that was confederate with thee shall hate the whore. Okay, and Turkey is going to be one of them. Let's close out with that, all right? What you're watching here, you're watching the fall of America, Babylon the Great. Where I want to get Obadiah. I want to start at verse 6. It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his head things sought up? Right, and all his things that he done and hid has all been searched out through the men of the Lord. You know, he's been exposed on an ultimate level through the men of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Alright, and it says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. Okay, all these countries that partook in the things that you was partaking in. Okay, which is what the NATO and the EU. It says the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. You know, that would be what? Their own allies. Okay, it says, and prevailed against thee. They that ate the bread have laid a wound under thee. You see, because they are all eating together. You know, they're all under the U.S. vibration. Okay, with the U.S. being the head honcho of them all. It says, there is none understanding in him. Shall I not in the day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau? And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed at the end of every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Okay? So there you have it. Alright? O Teman, you know, the wise men of Esau shall be cut off. Right? So ultimately, Edom, you know, you're going to be destroyed. You know, these other nations, they're going to come against you. You know, that have been at peace with you, that you know, ate and labored with you. Okay, that backed you up in all your wickedness that you have done out through the world. They are going to come against you, which is biblical prophecy. All right. But, you know, I just wanted to bring that out. You know, the point was made that Iran is being backed up with Russia, which also goes along with Ezekiel the 30th chapter, the 5th verse. You know, that's what it says when, you know, Russia being gathered together. You know, basically, you know, all their military might. You know, getting prepared for bucklers and shields and handling swords. But then it lists, you know, some of the places that will be with Russia in these times. Okay, slowly but surely. And who's the first on the list? Persia, Iran. Okay, which is a Russian ally. Okay, but that's, you know, point was made. Hope the lesson was edifying. You know, just to bring out, you know, some information to you. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Salutations to you, brothers, to the four corners of the earth, teaching his word in truth and sincerity. Shalom.